An Oxford researcher, Oliver Petrovich, a few years back asked children around the world a simple question about the physical world. Who made this pen? Cosmological arguments. She was trying to find a natural cause behind the universe, or basically the natural concept of God without the need for the revelation. Damn, fly, get out. Something like a Kalam argument, right? So you establish a necessary being. Now, I believe Quran as a revelation is much stronger evidence than any cosmological arguments, but in order to establish that there could be a natural cause behind the universe, it is actually helpful to have this experiment done. Many adults say, well, if I wasn't introduced to the concept of God, I would never believe in God, of course, as a young child. It was forced on me. Yeah, religion is forced, so of course, to believe Jesus is God or Ganesh or whoever, those beliefs are forced. But is the true belief in one God, in the transcendental God, forced, or are kids born with that? Without, even she said, it's the primary creator, the God that I was concerned with, not the revelation. Her findings were based on several studies, particularly one from Japanese children between the age of 4 and 6, and another 400 British children between the age 5 to 7 from many different faiths. Now, what we have to understand is that Japanese culture is very different from the Western or the British culture, so there's not even a concept of God technically in Japanese culture. She tested both Japanese and British kids simply by showing them pictures of natural objects and asking them, where did this come from? We can see some Kalam cosmological argument vibe over here, because that's basically going back to the first cause, and she was trying to find out if these kids have this need to go back to the causal chain. Where is the beginning? And so kids could quickly find out, like, okay, this was made by a man, a human, or a factory, and I don't know, a tree wasn't made by a human, it was made by something else. So when they were pressed on, okay, who was it made by, or how was it made, they had to give an answer. When they would see a dog, they would ask, how did this dog come to be? Well, where did it come from? The first dog, the metaphysical question. They would have 3 options. So one option was God. The second one was, I don't know, nobody knows. And the third one was incorrect option, which was by people. The children overwhelmingly didn't pick by people or we don't know, they chose God. The Shinto religion in Japan, they don't have the concept of God, but they do have something called kami-sama, which is their sort of a version of God. Where did these kids get the idea that the creation process is in the hands of God in Japan? Things like, I saw God on TV, he's this white man. Yeah, that could be an answer if you indoctrinate kids with Christianity or religion, and those things are definitely taught. But what is fascinating to me, besides this point of causal chain going back to God, is that when the kids were asked, how do you think God looks like? You can see even in this video.
Who is God?
Somebody who created our world and created us. He is a father. The person who created the world.
They would just say a bunch of gas, you can't imagine, an air, or a person without a body. Humans naturally believe in the transcendental power, something above us. And we know this is not something that we can imagine. We know this thing out there is not a human being. Everybody has the same belief in the beginning, and there's some force out there, one force which controls everything, which I can't imagine. It's like energy, but I believe that it's somewhere, and this force created everything. This is Tawheed. This is the pure monotheism of Islam. And this is why Islam is so unique, because it's the only religion which really gives you this sense of, okay, what I believe here clearly matches the description of natural way of life. Allah is this force. People are trying to find him through different ways. You can look at the revelation, but you can find Allah through just pondering. This is so unique because no other gods, there are no gods but Allah, la ilaha illallah. But no other gods in a quote-unquote can be found like that. You have to be indoctrinated in a religion to find all the other gods. And only Allah is beyond imagination. Kids from different parts of the world come to the same conclusion about the reality of the material world, it is something intuitive inside the kids. So atheism is also a learned position. No one's born an atheist as well. Every child is born upon Fitrah, which is a natural predisposition to believe in the creator. And this concept of Islam, Fitrah, perfectly matches this. And we don't depend on this research, by the way, because we don't depend on science or cosmological arguments. We look at the Quran and the Sunnah. But if we look outside of these sources, we can see, hey, Islam is the best explanation for the universe, for the reality inside the universe, and for the purpose of this life. Children's concept of God is transcendental, immaterial, not spatial or temporal. How are we born with this? This is a Kalam cosmological argument in a nutshell, where you establish a necessary being and then you kind of go through the attributes. These are the attributes of a necessary being outside of time and space, outside of, it doesn't depend on anything, everything depends on it. Self-sufficient, it's all-powerful, it's uncaused, it doesn't have a beginning. These things are there, but kids are born with it. Every kid knows that God exists. This concept could not be learned from a cultural learning, because Japanese kids don't have a culture of having God. Even children and adults coming from different culture come to the same assumptions and conclusions. Adults just use more complicated language and thinking, but essentially they come to the same conclusion. So we're all born with looking for We're all born with looking for the causal chain to end. This is the natural predisposition of a human, and we need to figure it out before we die. Until then, we go crazy. Children can comprehend an absolute beginning, a stopping point in the causal chain, and the best stopping point for them is the uncaused cause, the creator, beyond our imagination. Kul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid walam yulad, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Plus, I'm gonna leave you with one more hadith from Abu Huraira. Reported that the Prophet said, "No child is born but that he is upon a natural instinct. His or her parents make them a Christian, a Jew, or Magian. This natural instinct is the Fitrah." Alhamdulillah for Islam. You can look it up, Olivera Petrovich from Oxford. It's pretty indisputable, like something which is intuitive is very difficult to attack, because your intuitions are the most important in your life. So if you would put them aside, then you can put aside your intuition to love your child, your intuition to take care of your wife, because those are all intuitions. You don't have to do any of that, by the way. And also, we've raised almost 3,100 euros, alhamdulillah, and we're gonna soon make a video with the Syrian refugees and giving them some of the things they need. Assalamu alaikum, guys. See you in the next video.